in the rugged highlands of Ethiopia, a nation with history as ancient as civilization itself. The figure of Haile Selassie rises as a symbol of resilience, justice, and the undying spirit of African unity. Born in 1892 in the royal court of the Ethiopian Empire, he would come to embody the dreams and struggles of a continent. The young boy who grew up as Rastafarian Tezema, the son of a noble family, would eventually become a beacon of hope and inspiration for millions of people worldwide, standing as the last emperor of Ethiopia and a symbol of African independence and resistance. Haile Selassie's lineage was steeped in legend, tracing back to the Solomonic dynasty, which claimed descent from the biblical union between King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. This divine bloodline gave him not only political legitimacy, but a spiritual connection that resonated deeply within Ethiopia and beyond. The connection to King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba was a source of immense pride and cultural strength, and would later contribute to the emperor's place in the hearts of people across the African diaspora, particularly among the Rastafarians. As a young man, Haile Selassie was sent to study in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, where he honed his skills in governance and diplomacy. His early life was marked by an awareness of his destined role in Ethiopian society. The monarch's path was clear. He would ascend to the throne and carry on the responsibilities of his ancestors. He was appointed as regent for the Ethiopian Empire in 1916, following the death of Emperor Zewde. During this period, he proved his political acumen and leadership ability, gaining the trust of both the people and the nobility. In 1930, Haile Selassie's destiny was realized when he was crowned as the Emperor of Ethiopia. His ascension marked the beginning of a new chapter in Ethiopian history, one filled with both challenges and opportunities. The newly crowned emperor's vision was to modernize his nation, to elevate Ethiopia on the global stage, and to foster unity among the diverse ethnic groups within the empire. Haile Selassie believed that the future of Ethiopia rested on its ability to adapt to the modern world while preserving its rich cultural heritage. However, his vision for modernization and unity would soon be tested in ways he could not have anticipated. In 1935, Benito Mussolini's fascist Italy launched an invasion of Ethiopia, seeking to expand its empire and diminish the influence of one of the last independent African nations. The Italian forces, with their advanced weaponry, were a formidable opponent, but they underestimated the strength and resolve of the Ethiopian people. Despite their courage, Ethiopia's military was no match for the might of Mussolini's army, and the nation fell under foreign occupation. Haile Selassie's exile to Britain was a painful chapter in his life, yet it did not break his spirit. From afar, he worked tirelessly to bring international attention to Ethiopia's plight. His eloquent speeches and diplomatic efforts at the League of Nations in 1936 helped expose the brutality of the Italian occupation and galvanized international support for Ethiopia's struggle. In his speech to the League of Nations, Haile Selassie famously warned the world, "It is us today, it will be you tomorrow," as he spoke of the dangers of fascism and unchecked aggression. His words resonated with people across the world, as they highlighted the broader implications of Ethiopia's plight. Haile Selassie's message of unity and justice echoed far beyond Ethiopia's borders. His appeal to the League of Nations and his tireless efforts to gain global support made him a symbol of resistance, not just for Ethiopia, but for all colonized peoples. His call for collective action against tyranny and oppression reverberated in the hearts of those who longed for freedom. The emperor's resolve and his unwavering belief in the dignity of his people earned him a place in the pantheon of great leaders who fought for justice. The Italian occupation, however, could not break the spirit of Ethiopia. In 1941, with the help of British forces, Haile Selassie returned to Ethiopia and reclaimed his throne. His return was a moment of immense triumph, not only for him but for the entire nation. His people, who had suffered under foreign rule for years, welcomed him back as a hero. Haile Selassie's victory was a victory for African dignity, for the idea that Africa's destiny should be in the hands of its people, free from colonial domination. Upon his return to the throne, Haile Selassie immediately set about restoring Ethiopia to its former glory. His reforms aimed at modernizing the country, particularly in areas such as education, infrastructure, and governance. He introduced Ethiopia's first constitution in 1931, which provided a legal framework for the country's governance and enshrined civil liberties. The emperor also sought to strengthen Ethiopia's military and economic infrastructure, believing that a strong nation would be able to stand on its own in the face of external threats. Despite his efforts, the emperor's reign was not without challenges. Internally, Ethiopia faced economic difficulties and political unrest. There were growing calls for land reform, as much of the country's wealth remained in the hands of a small aristocracy. The emperor's centralization of power and his efforts to modernize Ethiopia's institutions were met with resistance from both traditional elites and progressive reformers. Yet Haile Selassie, with his characteristic patience and wisdom, sought to navigate these challenges with grace, always keeping his vision for a united and prosperous Ethiopia at the forefront. It was during these years of rebuilding that Haile Selassie's influence extended beyond Ethiopia. His leadership in the formation of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, in 1963 was a testament to his belief in African unity. The OAU aimed to unite African nations in the struggle for independence, peace, and development, and Haile Selassie's role as its first chairman solidified his reputation as a leader committed to the unity and empowerment of Africa. His dream was of a continent that could stand together, speak with one voice, and protect its sovereignty. But it was not only his political achievements that made Haile Selassie an iconic figure. His spiritual significance grew exponentially, particularly among the followers of the Rastafarian movement. Emerging in the 1930s in Jamaica, the Rastafarians saw Haile Selassie as a divine figure, the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. They believed that he was the earthly incarnation of God, a messianic figure who would lead black people to freedom and redemption. This belief was rooted in the emperor's Ethiopian heritage and his connection to the ancient Solomonic dynasty, which Rastafarians saw as a fulfillment of the LionOfJudah prophecy in the Bible. Haile Selassie's relationship with the Rastafarian movement was complex. While he acknowledged their reverence, he never formally embraced their religious view of him as a divine figure. Nevertheless, his stance on justice, equality, and African empowerment resonated deeply with the movement's followers. To them, his reign symbolized a triumph of African pride and potential for liberation from the bonds of oppression. The Rastafarian movement spread across the Caribbean and beyond, with Haile Selassie becoming an enduring symbol of hope and freedom. His speeches, which championed the rights of Africans and their descendants, serve as a source of inspiration for those fighting against colonialism and racial injustice. To Rastafarians, the emperor's words were not just political statements, but divine proclamations of a future where the oppressed would rise up and claim their rightful place in the world. In Ethiopia, however, the emperor's reign was increasingly challenged by political unrest and social dissatisfaction. As the 1970s progressed, discontent among the Ethiopian people grew. The emperor's government faced criticism for its failure to address the economic hardships of ordinary citizens and its inability to implement meaningful reforms. A growing revolutionary movement, fueled by dissatisfaction with the monarchy and the aristocracy, began to gain momentum. In 1974, Haile Selassie was overthrown in a military coup, marking the end of an era. The circumstances surrounding Haile Selassie's fall from power were shrouded in mystery. After his overthrow, the emperor was imprisoned by the new military regime, which would later be known as the Derg. There were rumors of his poor health and the conditions of his captivity, and his death in 1975 remains a topic of debate. Some reports suggest he died of natural causes, while others claim he was assassinated. His passing marked the end of an era for Ethiopia, as the country transitioned into a Marxist regime under the leadership of Mengistu Haile Mariam. Despite his dethronement and death, Haile Selassie's legacy endured. To the Rastafarians, he remained the spiritual and symbolic leader of their movement, the living embodiment of divine kingship and justice. His image, adorned with the Ethiopian flag and the Pan-African colors, continues to inspire those who fight for freedom and equality. His name is invoked in songs, speeches, and prayers, a testament to the enduring power of his influence. In Ethiopia, Haile Selassie is remembered as the last emperor of a proud nation, a man who stood against foreign invaders and sought to modernize his country. His contributions to Ethiopian society, particularly in the areas of education and infrastructure, are still evident today. Yet his true legacy lies in his unwavering belief in the dignity of his people and his commitment to the idea of a united Africa. Haile Selassie's dream of African unity was not fully realized in his lifetime, but the seeds he planted continue to grow. The African Union, which succeeded the OAU, stands as a testament to his vision of a united and self-reliant Africa. His efforts to inspire and unite African nations remain a guiding light for leaders across the continent, as they continue to strive for the peace, prosperity, and justice that he envisioned. Even in the face of adversity, Haile Selassie's legacy endures. His life and work are a reminder that the struggle for justice and equality is never in vain. His message of unity, resilience, and faith in the power of the people continues to inspire those who fight for freedom, not just in Ethiopia, but in every corner of the world. Haile Selassie may have been the last emperor of Ethiopia, but his legacy remains timeless. His name, his vision, and his unshakable belief in the dignity of his people continue to resonate. From the highlands of Ethiopia to the streets of Jamaica, From the halls of the United Nations to the hearts of millions across the globe, the Lion of Judah will never be forgotten